Hi there, this is Nalfa from Note Solution. We're going to be talking about short run versus long run today, and we're going to be looking at a question that is difficult just to clarify our concepts. So the question says, comparing the short run and long run profit maximizing positions of a perfectly competitive firm, which one of the following statements is true? So it's basically asking us to compare the equilibrium positions in the short run, where we know that price equals to marginal cost maximizes, so that's the point where the equilibrium would occur, versus the long run point where price is equal to average cost is where the equilibrium will occur. And so respectively there'd be this point right over here that we're going to start with, and in the long run we have this point right over there, that is our equilibrium point. So it goes on to say the first option is price will equal marginal cost in the short run, but not necessarily in the long run. So in the short run we know that the best a firm can do is for their price to be equal to marginal cost. Now if the marginal cost was lower than price, this would mean that the cost of producing an extra unit is less than what the customers value it at, or what the customers are willing to pay it at, which is price. And so this is basically an indication for you to produce more. And so that would not be, so in the short run, what you can do best, or what you can do to maximize your profits or be efficient, is for price to equal marginal cost, so that you don't have any incentive to change once you're at this position. So the first part, when it says price equals marginal cost in the short run, that's correct. Now it says, but not necessarily in the long run. So let's take a scenario over here, for example, when the marginal cost is higher, for example, somewhere over here, as opposed to the price that's over there. So this basically means that not only is your marginal cost greater than the price, but also your average cost is greater than the price at this particular level of quantity. And so this is basically an indication, or this is basically saying that not only are you not covering your marginal cost, but you're not even covering your cost on average. And so this is not a position that you should be producing at. You should in fact decrease quantity. And once again, in the long run, since there's free entry and exit of firms, if this actually were, this would never stay in the long run. What would happen is firms would see, all right, now that this market has been saturated, or now that there are a lot of firms producing, any further production would mean that marginal cost and also average cost would be greater than price. And so it's beneficial for us to just exit the firm, so that rather than making losses, so that we can return to this point right over here, or so that the firm can be so that the industry can be in equilibrium again. So it's necessary for the long run also to be price is equal to average cost, which also equals to marginal cost. As we can see, it's the point right over there where all three of these intersect. And so it's necessary for price to equal average cost and also equal to marginal cost, since that's basically the minimum efficient scale, saying that the cost of producing your extra unit is equal to the cost of producing all your units on average, and as well as the price that you're getting in the market. So that basically is your long run situation, or long run equilibrium position. And it is true that both in the short run as well as in the long run, price does equal to marginal cost. And so the first one would hence be incorrect when it says that price only equals marginal cost in the short run, but not necessarily in the long run. Part B says economic profit may exist in the short run and in the long run. Now, so in the short run we know that the supply curves can shift. So there could be an increase in demand, let's say because of some instance, because the demand for your particular good has gone up, and so this is shifted out. So this basically means that the price has gone up. Now if your marginal cost is the same as it was before, that means now your price is greater than the marginal cost. So in the short run, where capital is fixed and there's no entry or exit, you could definitely be having economic profits, just because the price that you're getting in the market is greater than the cost of producing the additional units. And so at this higher price, you would in fact be making profits. But what happens in the long run, and why this cannot exist in the long run, is because in the long run there's free entry and exit for firms. That means that if a firm actually sees that there's an abnormal profit, there's an economic profit in a particular industry, it will enter the firm to actually avail or to actually get a part of this, and that would mean that the supply curve would in fact shift out just because there's more firms, and if that happens, that will shift out exactly as much so as to intersect with the long run supply curve, so that no profits or no economic profits are once again realized. So at this point, your price is returned to where it was before, and which is equal to marginal cost, of course, and so that means that you're not making any profits. So in the long run, with the long run supply, that means that the firms would increase output or would enter the industry, and that would mean that price would again be equal to marginal cost. So that's basically why in the long run economic profits cannot exist, and the main reason is because of the free entry and exit of firms. So that's why when it says in B that economic profit may exist in both the short run and the long run, that would be incorrect. Part C says the firm will produce at minimum average cost in both the short run and the long run. Now, in the short run, so in the long run, we know that the firm will be producing at a point where the marginal cost is equal to the average cost right over there. But in the short run, it may very well be the case that as long as you're covering your average variable costs or your average costs, your marginal cost could be at a lower point, so somewhere over there, higher, which is lower than the price that you're getting. So this could happen in the short run, that even though your average cost is greater than the price, your marginal cost is much lower, which means that you're actually making some economic profits. So when it says over here that the firms will only produce at the minimum average cost in both the short run and long run, that would once again be incorrect, since this is only a long run phenomenon where the price must equal to average cost. In the short run, it may vary just because the marginal cost can be different as there can be shifts in both the demand and supply of firms or supply of output. So that's why we can't really choose C either. Part D says price should equal average cost in the long run, but not necessarily in the short run. Now this seems to be our answer. So in the long run, we know that price would always be equal to average cost, just because that's our basically equilibrium condition where free entry and exit ensures that no profits can exist in the long run. So if there are profits, firms will see this as an incentive to enter the market and gain some of those profits, and that would push supply out, and in fact, and you would be restored back to your equilibrium point right over there. But what happens in the short run is basically a little different. So in the short run, our main condition, or the profit maximizing condition, is price is equal to marginal cost. Now that may or may not equal to average cost, just because the capital is fixed and there's no entry and exit for firms. So as long as we have price equal to marginal cost, it could very well be the case that you are lower, much lower over here, or the price is not as yet the long run supply price. So for example, at this point over here, that would mean that you're not in fact equal to your average cost, but in fact just equal to the marginal cost. So in the short run, a situation where average cost is not equal to the price is viable or could occur, but in the long run, once again, that could never be a situation, since if you were to increase output either of these ways, it would be beneficial for you to either reduce output if you were over there or increase output if you were there, because of the combination between marginal cost being lower and higher than the price. So that seems to be our answer. But and so let's just go on so that we haven't missed anything. Part E says the firm may have unexploited economies of scale in both the short run and the long run. Now, in the short run, once again, as we've said, you could embark upon something along the lines of a more efficient production, and that would mean that the marginal cost has gone down and the price is where it is in the market. So that would basically mean that you are making abnormal profits just because you have you're at a situation where the price that you're getting exceeds the marginal cost. But once again, in the long run, since entry and exit of firms are free, people will see this as an incentive to enter, and that would no longer remain. And so in the long run, even though there can never be unexploited economies of scale, just because it would be producing at a point where the long run average cost curve is at the absolute minimum right over there, since we know that this is basically made out of short run average cost curves, or the minimum point of each short run average cost curve, and so it would be the minimum efficient point of production. So in the long run, economies of scale will not exist, or will exist only at the minimum efficient point and not anywhere else. And hence the answer to this question would be D.